Hello there, my name is Sixo, but more on that later, as now it's time for a brand new unboxing video. And today it's a toy I've been looking forward to for ages. It's the Beast Wars big cat himself, masterpiece Tigertron. Absolutely perfect. MP-50 is the newest Beast Wars release in the Masterpiece line and brings to life the notable maximal warrior known as Tigertron. Like the rest of the Masterpiece Beast Wars designs, it seems as though TakaraTomy have recreated both modes for this character in stunning detail, so this is one that I'm very excited to see in hand today. Tigertron first appears in the 7th episode of the Beast Wars cartoon, Fallen Comrades, where after his stasis pod crashes he finds that he has no memory of his previous life on Cybertron. Consequently, he feels more at home in nature than he ever does as part of the war against the Predacons, something that he struggles with on more than one occasion.
Animals hunt to survive. And what do you think war is about?
Personally, he's one of my favourite characters from the cartoon, so I can't wait to see what TakaraTomy have done with him, and I'm hopeful that we might even see a Masterpiece Air Razor soon. Last thing before we begin, today's video comes courtesy of TF Source, so I'll put a link to their site in the video description, and I'll be aiming to get a full photo review up on their blog soon. So here we are with Tigertron, and of course the box is looking fairly typical for Masterpiece designs. You've got the toy just here in both modes, that kind of lovely eye pattern. I absolutely love this packaging. I can't really talk about it enough. It's just great. On the back are loads of the gimmicks and all the promo shots, including all of the different bits that you get in the box and all of the various things it can do. If you collect Masterpiece, you'll be very familiar with it by now, I'm sure. So let's go ahead and get this kitty out of there, shall we? So excited for this one, gotta say. Really been looking forward to it. I know there's been a few grumbles online, but hey ho, I can't wait. So anyway, here's the contents of the box. All joking aside, I normally do these shots where I set up like all of the different accessories to kind of show you everything that you get inside the packaging, and you know what, I couldn't do a better job of it than TakaraTomy have done here, because it's just beautiful how they display their toys in these kind of clamshells. They really think through it, and I think it's great. And of course you've got the character's gun, which is looking really cool. Of course it's got his little bit of entrails and stuff on there, commonly referred to as the gut gun on Cheetah. Obviously on the Masterpiece Cheetah it's integrated, whereas here it's not. You've got these little missiles which fit under the flap under his arm, and that recreates a scene from Fallen Comrades, his first episode. You've got several extra faces, 4 in total, so 5 including the one that I presume is on the toy. This is kind of an angry snarling face, looks really cool. This one is kind of a, I suppose, unhappy, shouting in shock or disbelief face. I think that's from memory anyway, that's from when Snowstalker is killed, his lady tiger friend in the cartoon. Sort of snarling face there, looks really menacing. These are all really well done. And finally you've got this one, which might be hard to mistake, but it's actually, if I just take my hand away there, you can see it's got blue eyes, this one instead, and it's the face that is used for when he's hacking into the Predacon computer. Now, if you've seen that episode, you'll know he has to solve a puzzle in order to gain access to the computer, and it's a sort of virtual puzzle in the shape of Megatron's head. So that's why this is included here, and indeed I think it does sort of transform into a little puzzle piece as well, so we'll take a look in a bit. And here's the third and final accessory that homages that same scene of him hacking the computer, and it's this little kind of tube that goes from himself into the computer. So yeah, there you go. Looks really nice. Very small and intricate, but nicely painted. And finally, last accessory, you've got this piece, which I believe is kind of like a flight stand of sorts, a cat stand, I guess, that you position his beast mode on. I could be wrong about that. I'll need to check that out as we go. Of course, you've got this little baggie with the instructions and the character card in as well. And here is the toy straight out the box, completely unadjusted or anything like that. So it's looking really good, actually. Really like the color of him. We'll kind of go into detail on that in a minute. But yeah, first impressions are that he looks quite nice. Nice paint, everything else. A lot of people commenting on the kind of proportions of this tiger mode and calling it chonk or oh lord, he coming, or whatever else. I don't know, all of that kind of stuff. But actually, I think it looks really decent. I mean, tigers are massive for starters, and this seems to be a decent approximation of that. One thing that is really funny out of the box, though, is the face, because, well, check this out. No need to worry. In fact, one of the gimmicks here is that the color of the eyes does change through transformation, because in the cartoon model anyway, has green eyes in beast mode and orange eyes when the beast mode head is on his chest in robot mode, because that's just the way things are in these sorts of cartoons. But actually, it just looks like they've come loose or something in the box just there. So I'm just going to flip up. I do know how to do this already, having seen pics of it. Just flip up his little noggin there. I absolutely love that as well. I don't know why it makes me laugh so much, but just this little panel on his head, I just think that's hilarious. And we'll flip it down again, and there you go. His eyes are now the correct color for beast mode. It does mean, of course, that you can move his little eyeballs from side to side as well. So that's pretty cool. We'll check that out in a bit more detail in just a minute. Yeah, he's cleaned up pretty well. I think actually the beast mode looks pretty tidy, all things considered. And I think, you know, you do have to give a bit of allowance to these beast modes for, you know, kibble and things like that, because realistically, I mean, they're, you know, they're a big challenge, I'm sure, to get right. You know, the cartoon had various cheats in it and whatever else, and this one actually cleans up maybe even better than most, I would say. Do you know what I mean? Although, of course, the back is less successful. I mean, there's always going to be a bit of compromise somewhere, right? And here it's definitely in these back legs, which is, you know, all kind of major compromise going on. But it's still not too bad. I mean, the general shape of them is a little bit weird, I suppose, but, and obviously there's lots of green that can be seen, so it's definitely not the most flattering angle. It was the, you know, kind of the same on Cheetor really, where you had, you know, feet hanging off and obvious blue bits and whatever else. So there is always going to be some compromise with these beast modes. I'm fine with it personally, because they look great all the same. Do you know what I mean? It's just, you know, if you happen to pose it with the cat's bum facing you, then it's not going to look the best. That's just the reality of it, I guess. So maybe don't do that. Pretty much every other angle, though, is surprisingly nice. I mean, you know, even from the side, there's a couple of panels and bits like that, but that's remarkably clean, no? I think that's really good, I have to say. And again, I think the proportions are good. He looks spot on to the cartoon, by my estimation. I think big vibe of the mainframe animation coming off this guy, in my book. Now, of course, a big part of that is the face sculpt, which, I mean, as with the previous beast modes that we've seen in this line, they just, you know, they're all incredible. What can I say? Every single one of them, you know, I'm sure it's the benefit of having computer animation as the sort of source material, but they just look stellar, and Tigertron is no exception. That is spot on to the cartoon. I'm always kind of loath to say, oh, it looks like it walked off the screen, or, you know, any of that kind of gubbins, but it really is true. It really is true. It just looks exactly like him. I can hear the voice and everything right in my head. It's just stunning. Really breathtaking. He's also got the really nice little whiskers, movable whiskers that Cheetor had as well. Now, of course, we've already seen that you can indeed move the eyes. The neck is a little bit articulated as well. You can sort of rotate the head. Not as much as I might have expected, actually, but it's not too bad. And he can look a little bit up and down, which is quite nice. And there is a bit of a movable jaw going on as well, which is a little bit stiff, I noted. But there you go. It's got some very nice tiger teeth in there. I just think, you know, that is superbly painted as well. Real crisp attention to detail. And indeed, the stripes and everything here look suitably on point as well. So yeah, lots of posing options. I mean, again, you know, if you were to if you were to flip up the little thing just there, then of course you can move the eyes as well. There, I will say the one eye, this eye, I think it is, yeah, his left eye just feels a touch looser than the other one. Maybe that's why they were kind of rattling around in the box a bit, eh? But there you go. You can just move the eyes slightly as well. It's giving you a bit of side eye. Just there you go. And yeah, I just think it just looks magnificent. What can I say? Great stuff. Again, stripes all over the body look really cool. Carry over nicely across different panelled sections as well, so the paint seems really well applied. Front legs look really powerful. I think they look absolutely great. They've got a hinge joint just there, so they can go out to the side, and of course you've got ankle tilt in the foot as well, and then you've got an actual sort of hinge just there like that, and then they can go forward. So there's, you know, there's really quite a lot of articulation possible with those front legs, and they just look magnificent. Nicely painted toes as well. Now, as I already alluded to, the back legs are less successful, and that's mainly because of this lower half. The top bit, you know, is a little bit messy, and this piece here, this top sort of section has a bit of a habit of well, I don't even really think it pegs, to be honest. It looks like it should just fit in there, but it doesn't really seem to sort of stay securely. I mean, that's fine. It's not a big problem, but it is this lower section which is the real kind of compromise, I guess, on everything on this beast mode, because it is just kind of made up of robot mode kibble. If anything, the toes are fine. Everything down to the kind of knee joint is fine. It's this bit from the green down to there, especially here. And what they've essentially done is taken a bit of robot mode stuff and tried to approximate the shape of the back of the cat legs, the tiger legs. And yeah, I don't know how successful it is. As far as articulation in those back legs goes, you've got a hinge, back and forth, quite obviously, and again, sort of side to side, approximating a bit of ankle tilt, I guess. No real movement in the foot, a little bit, I think, just like that. I mean, if you can call that articulation, I don't know, that's for transformation quite clearly. So yeah, they're fine. I mean, not the best. I do like the tail though. The tail's really nice, very poseable again, feels very solid, looks great, nice paint on there, kind of twizzles to the side as well. So yeah, big fan of the tail. Really what it means is that any posing you do with this guy in cat mode is all about those front legs. I mean, the back legs are just kind of, they can pose a little, but they don't really give you a whole lot. So it's all about whatever creativity you can kind of come up with the front legs. And he does look really nice in a pose. I mean, it's, it is fine. It's just, I am a little bit disappointed by the back legs, I won't lie. Fortunately, everything else here makes up for it. So on balance, it's a great beast mode. Now, one thing I've only just briefly touched on, but is worth commenting on, is the color of this guy, because he's very, very definitely not white. I guess he does kind of almost have that kind of yellow plastic effect to him, do you know what I mean? Which is really, really weird, but of course it's a clear attempt to look like the real animal. And it's interesting because it's kind of not evenly applied either. So, I mean, that is by design, but you can see just here on his ear and actually just a bit underneath the chin, there's a bit more of a kind of, brilliant white peeking out. And it's kind of faded in and out, if anything, across different bits of the cat. But, I mean, by comparison, you can see here against his gun, which is, much more of a kind of a keen, brilliant white, and that's the color of the robot mode, just to give you that real, kind of differentiation. And it's definitely going to cause a lot of comment. People will either like it or hate it, I guess. It's one of those. But for my money, I think it looks good. Now, interestingly, although it doesn't actually form part of the underside of the cat like it does on Cheetor, this slightly enlarged gut gun can actually go inside the beast mode, as I've just discovered. So if you flip up this top bit like that, and then fold that piece away, and then like so, then actually it will, if you kind of unfold the beast mode, it will clip inside. So it's a bit unflattering, because you kind of have to splay him out like this. I mean, very weird. Don't get me started. Man, I'm going to say something I regret in a minute. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, you'll notice when you kind of flay him open, which is the same process for transformation actually, that there is just space to tab that inside there if you really want to. And then, of course, you can just go ahead and close it up and reposition it and whatever else. You get the idea. The fact is, you're barely going to see the gun. It's just literally going to show out a little bit on his belly, just there. But you can store it inside the cat mode should you wish. There you go. And lo and behold, I figured out what that white plastic piece is for, and as I predicted, it's a little stand, sort of adapter that goes on the regular sort of Beast Wars stands, like came with Masterpiece Dinobot and what have you, and then you can position Tigertron in mid-air in kind of a leaping pose. So yeah, overall I've got plenty of nice things to say about this beast mode, and I think what is interesting is when you bring in Masterpiece Cheetor to the proceedings, you can see just how different they are overall. And I think what really makes me chuckle actually is when when Tigertron was first unveiled, a lot of people, I read so many comments from people saying, oh, it's just an oversized Cheetor, clearly. And I don't know, from the beginning, I was kind of like, have you seen that toy? Because I really don't think it is. And to be fair, based on the show models and whatever else, I don't think it was ever going to be. And lo and behold, you can see quite clearly when you have them in hand, they are definitely 100% not the same mold in any way, shape or form. Completely different toys. I mean, even just their proportions is just fascinating. It just really, really makes me laugh just looking at the two of them, because they're just so different, in terms of stockiness, build, everything. They could not be more separate. And I just think TakaraTomy have done a great job with it, you know, just in how they've represented both of these characters that were, of course, originally the same mold back in the vintage Beast Wars series. Then the show, you know, did its thing and kind of updated the character models and whatever else, and here we are. And I just think they look fabulous. They're a great pair of toys. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have my grumbles about both of them in some ways, you know, things like the rear legs on Tigertron, although overall I think actually he's probably better than Cheetor, you know, who, let's be fair, is far from perfect in this mode. But still, I'm willing to forgive a lot because I think what the designers have done is really captured the essence of the characters, and just the likeness is so good to the cartoon that it's just fabulous. I mean, again, it's the same with stuff like Black Arachnia, which, I don't know, for my money anyway, is a really, really nice beast mode. I think it does a great job at recalling the animation. I think, you know, yes, it's not a perfect, dead accurate spider mode, but hey ho. And you know, I think it looks good. It looks really, really good. And there is an extent to which all of these toys, these Beast Wars MPs, do prioritize the robot mode a little bit. Do you know what I mean? And I forgive them for that because, if anything, that's what I want. But on the whole, I think, you know, they've crushed it again. And what can I say? It looks brilliant. Anyway, you know what? I promised myself I wasn't going to rant in this one. So let's crack on and take a look at Transformation. So I'm really excited to see it. I've heard a few grumbles along the way and a few concerns about quality, so let's have a look. Okay, and here is Tigertron in his robot mode, and yeah, it's not too bad actually, Transformation. It's I had been sort of led to believe from a couple of comments online that was going to be a nightmare, and to be honest, I really didn't find that to be the case. There's a couple of bits that are really very clever, that I think, you know, come together very nicely. Really love the kind of simplicity in the main body and the way that the tiger head kind of collapses onto the chest. I think that's cool. Like the way that these little panels flip out from the back onto the front of the legs. That's really cool how this sort of crotch panel comes together. I think that's, you know, that's just like one of those little moments where you're like, aha, okay, very cool, like what they did there. The legs are very clever, a little bit fiddly, but not too bad. I think probably the main bit of kind of complexity or fiddliness, generally speaking, is in the front tiger legs and the way that they kind of assemble on the back. Just, you know, with these little panels on the side, it's not too bad. Honestly, it's really not too bad. And I think when you know what you're doing, it's going to be way easier as well. And besides which, you know what? There's no doubting the result because it just looks glorious. What can I say? It looks glorious. I mean, I just think they've nailed the look, right? Like, absolutely nailed it. That is Tigertron from the cartoon. Again, I hate to kind of bang on about, you know, it stepped off the screen, but It really has. It really, really has. I think that is a real strength of the Beast Wars masterpieces, is just seeing how accurate they are to the source material. Again, aided by the fact that it's CGI, I'm sure. And again, that's what this is all about for me. I get a thrill just seeing the characters so faithfully recreated in toy form. That, for me, is everything. And Tigatron here makes that first impression in spades. I love it. Now, there are a couple of little quirks that I've already spotted that I think, I'm going to need to kind of investigate further or make my mind up on. One thing I'm not too sure about is the knees, to be completely honest. We'll take a look at articulation in a minute, but I don't know, they don't seem the most stable. Equally, there is a little bit of give in some of the joints, like on the feet and things like that. Not too much, but I don't know, he's not the most solid or stable feeling toy that I've ever held. Do you know what I mean? There is a general feeling of kind of a little bit of wobbliness. I think if you gave him too much of a shove, he would go over backwards for sure. I mean, he's, don't get me wrong, he stands very nicely. It's just, I don't know, there is a little bit of give there somehow. I mean, they've definitely nailed things from a look perspective at least. And again, just that face is a great example of just how glorious this thing is. I mean, just look at the kind of intricacy, the detailing, things like the little maximal symbol on the head crest just there. It's tiny, absolutely tiny. It was one thing I commended about Cheetor as well, actually, was that kind of level of attention to detail. And here it is again to see on Tigatron. I mean, I'm absolutely living for that little mustache. It just looks brilliant. Really nice paint on there. To be fair, I never even noticed that Tigatron had little stripes on the side of his head. On his sort of, helmet, as it were. But there they are. And honestly, it just looks brilliant. Of course, should you prefer, then you can swap out the face and it just sort of unpegs like so. And then you can choose from any number of extra faces. I say any number, it's 4. That is the number, quite literally. So this is the kind of more scowling face, if you will. I think that looks really, really nice. Like that a lot. Actually, no, this is the scowling face. What am I on about? That other one is just kind of maybe it's a smile, I don't know. This is the scowling face. This is his I accidentally killed my girlfriend face, which is very, very, very sad. But I actually really like this. I have to say, this one could have looked really silly, but I think the way that they've molded it is just incredible, right? Like they've really just kind of captured the likeness. I think this face for me kind of shows what TakaraTomy can do with faces that a lot of maybe unofficial outfits, third parties, whatever, often struggle to achieve, right? Like that is exceptional. Now, of course, there is one other additional face, but we'll take a look at that when we check out some of the other accessories as well, those kind of hacking accessories in just a minute. So I'll put the default face back on for now, but you can see as well, there's really nice kind of shiny eyes in there with this translucent plastic. There's a bit of light piping going on from the back, just there. And it does catch the light really nicely. It's not the most vibrant thing I've ever seen, but still, it looks really, really good. Speaking of orange eyes, of course, there they are on the beast mode head on his chest, because I've flipped those out during transformation. I do think that's a really, really cool gimmick. Very simply executed. I will say though, again, the eyes are not kind of tight enough. They do kind of rotate around. I've already noticed during transformation that, that they were kind of, rolling from green to orange and back and forth a little bit. So that is annoying. Already mentioned this briefly, but I absolutely love this little crotch plate and the way that comes together. That for me was a real surprise, and it's a good example. And these little bits, the way they roll out from the front, just here, out from the back rather. And those to me are a good example of how this toy differentiates itself from Cheetor. It just shows you they are completely different molds. I don't think they share any engineering, or if they do, I mean, I can't see it. Do you know what I mean? This is an entirely new mold from the ground up. Really like the look of these arms as well. They just look superb. I don't know, there's just something very tidy about them that, again, really kind of recalls the cartoon. And of course, you can see the quite striking color difference in the white on the kind of robot-y bits to the beast mode. And it's worth just making a note that the transformation of the feet really got me as well. I was not at all expecting the toes to be made up of the rear paws. I thought that was really clever. Now from a rear view, of course, you have got quite a bit of kibble on the back there with these tiger legs just kind of hanging off. And if you were to take a look from a side view, you'll see what I mean. They do kind of stick out a little bit. It is quite, I don't know, bulky, like it is there. But again, I mean, it's accurate to the animation model. It is how it's supposed to be. Ultimately, that's where the legs of, that's where they're supposed to go. So I don't know really what you would want them to do with that otherwise. I think actually it's quite tidy considering how it could have been. And again, because it is accurate, I really don't mind it. I think it looks all right. I just know that some people may think, hey, that's too much of a backpack. So yeah, very strong look overall. Now in terms of articulation, you've got quite a good range at the head, can move from side to side and can move up as well. It's quite stiff actually, that joint, but very reminiscent of Cheetor, that actually. can't really look down. Lots of movement at the shoulder, and that's primarily because there's this little hinge just inside there, so that can actually move at the hinge, and that is on kind of a butterfly joint as well, so you've got a lot of movement back and forth, and then you've got movement at this shoulder as well. They feel fairly tight. I mean, I have found that mine, I wouldn't say they droop at all, but they do seem to sort of end up in that position a little bit, so that's fine. And then, yeah, you've obviously got movement back and forth at the shoulder like that as well. As for the rest of the arm, you've got a bicep swivel, and then you've got obviously shoulder articulation like so. That goes all the way up, that's pretty good. And then there is wrist swivel, and all of the fingers are on a single piece and articulated like so. No movement in the thumb, which surprised me actually, because Cheetor did have that. But there is a little bit of motion at the wrist as well, back and forth. Not much, because it's kind of impeded by this panel just behind it, but there is some. Well, I tell a lie, actually, the forefinger is separate. It's just a little bit stiff. Back to the middle, and you've got a very stiff waist swivel. No ab crunch though. Hips feel like they're on a very decent joint, nice clicky ratchet, and they go, yeah, very far up actually. That's really, really good. And then out to the side as well. Now the knees. Now I'm not a big fan of the knees, I've got to say. There is a bit of rotation just, like that there due to transformation, but the knee itself is a really weird one, and I think it's partly because of how it's formed, but initially I thought this can't be it. This cannot be it, but it does seem to be. So actually when you bend the knee, it's that piece just in there, which again is a joint for transformation, if anything. That's kind of how the knees sort of contort for cat mode, but that seems to be the actual knee joint for articulation as well. And it's a strange choice, I've got to say, it's a strange choice. It never really feels particularly stable, particularly then as you've also got a bit of movement underneath, as you can see. So unless I'm just not locking something in as it's meant to go, that doesn't really feel the best, it's got to be said. And then as far as the feet go, then there is quite a bit of ankle rotation and ankle tilt as well, very, very decent. Doesn't feel the most stable on the ankles, I don't know why. I think maybe it's just the hip joints, and I sort of think that it's the ankles, I don't know, but yeah, just, I don't know, I could do with a bit more stability in the legs, generally speaking. Anyway, we can go ahead and get the gun into his palm, which actually doesn't seem too difficult to do. Once you get the fingers wrapped around, it's quite secure. And there you go. And yeah, all things considered, I think he looks pretty breathtaking. There are definitely some quirks with the articulation in the lower half. I just can't get my head around those knees, to be completely honest. It's just a bizarre design choice. I don't know. I normally find TakTom quite reliable with this kind of stuff, but on this occasion they have they've perplexed me a little bit with that one, I'm not going to lie. And as I say, there could be maybe a little bit more stability in the ankles as well, just to kind of, make him feel that touch more solid. But overall, he poses really nicely. I do find actually the little hip skirt, nice as it is for transformation, obviously it doesn't fold up at all, so it does kind of impede the hips a little bit. But generally speaking, he poses like a champ. Love it. And once you've got the extra faces on and really kind of thought about how you're going to display him, it can't be beat. Honestly, it's Tigertron from the cartoon. He looks immense. The paint is excellent. The finish is really nice. A couple of quirks, as I say, with the legs, but overall, really pleased with him. Superb. Of course, then you've also got the little missiles which clip under his arm. And as I say, this is from the episode Fallen Comrades, which is his first appearance in the cartoon, where he fires it at Megatron and the other Predacons. So you just kind of clip them under this panel like that. You kind of fold it round over the top. Clip them on. It's not the most secure, I will say. Had a little fiddle with it already, but there you go, getting balanced as well. But it does look pretty cool. I mean, it at least feels like it poses pretty nicely, and it does look pretty cool just there under the arm. And for a simple little cartoon homage, it's nicely done. It's very simple, but nicely done. Well, now let's check out those hacking accessories for when he's, trying to get into the Predacon computer, of course. And first, you want to get this alternate face on him, which looks really cool with the blue eyes, actually. If anything, I mean, if you do prefer blue eyes, you could just pop that on anyway. I think it looks a bit different, but yeah, it is meant for the hacking homage. Then you want to take that purple cable accessory that we looked at earlier, and that just kind of plugs in to the side of his head like so. And then just pull it around and sort of place it in his hand like so, and he's ready to hack into that computer. I think it looks really, really cool. It's kind of a nice, counterpart to Black Arachnia's sort of hacking accessory, the little visor thing that she came with. And I do love these little homages that they do. I think, you know, it's really kind of, again, it's simple, but it's nicely done, it's well executed, and it looks cool. Then, of course, you've got this little Megatron head, which is the puzzle that he has to solve to get access to the computer, and the sides just kind of fold up, oops, like so. And, you know, it's a decent enough sort of approximation of how it looks in the cartoon. It's a bit random, but there you go, nice inclusion. And, you know, as a kind of full set of accessories, this is pretty cool. I mean, actually the Megatron head, if anything, is kind of the most random bit of all of it, because he doesn't particularly hold it all that well. You can kind of balance it in his hands, if anything, but overall, you know, it's a load of fun. And of course, that leads us on nicely to some comparisons. And here you can see Tigertron with Megatron. And yeah, you'll notice that although Megatron is, of course, the largest figure so far in the Masterpiece Beast Wars lineup, actually Tigertron is pretty big as well. I mean, I think probably the best demonstration of that is if you put him next to Masterpiece Cheetor. And of course, you've got Big Cat and Little Cat just there. And yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to see these two together like that in robot form, because of course we already took a look at them in beast mode and saw how they were very different sizes, you know, very different proportions. I mean, here, Tigertron absolutely dwarfs Cheetor. Although I have to say, I think it looks absolutely exceptional. To me, it works really, really well. I mean, I have seen quite a few people online wondering if actually Tigertron is too big. And, you know, questioning the scale of this toy. I mean, here you can see him with Optimus Primal, Masterpiece Optimus Primal, and yeah, he is taller, definitely. But actually, this is very accurate to the cartoon. If you take a look at a couple of screenshots, you know, of all of the gang together, the Maximal characters, he is very tall. Actually, he's supposed to be this height. So yes, it is accurate to the source. I mean, ultimately, the heights in that show do go up and down just a smidge. More than many people might care to admit, but actually Tigertron has always been, you know, a sizable character. I mean, even almost as big as Dinobot here, as you can see. Absolutely love this Dinobot toy, by the way, and to me this is just a dream come true, seeing characters like this. Law of the Jungle is one of my favourite episodes from that series, so absolutely terrific seeing both of these characters in toy form like this. Wonderful. Of course, Tigertron is not the first white cat that we've seen in the Masterpiece Beast Wars lineup, and here he is with Lio Convoy, even bigger than Lio Convoy actually, as you can see. And I think what's interesting is that, you know, quite a few people were maybe a little bit worried about the QC on Tigertron, given that actually Lio Convoy does have, you know, a few questionable bits on his finish, you know, the paint and things like that. But actually, I think Tigertron is way better. Personally, I think that, you know, it's a lot better. And then here's one we saw in beast mode earlier, but this is Masterpiece Black Arachnia. And I think this is really interesting to see, is currently she's the smallest official Beast Wars Masterpiece that we have. And of course, you could just see that wicked size difference. This is one of the things that I really enjoyed about that cartoon, actually, was the differential in size that you had for a lot of the characters. I really feel like it added something. Now, of course, we're still waiting on a proper MP version of Rat Trap and Rhinox, but here is at least the Legends version, which you can see there. And I think probably the MP might even be around the same height as and when they do one. I really hope they will soon. And hey, maybe an Air Razor as well to TakaraTomy. How about that? And just as a further size comparison, it's probably interesting to take a look at him versus a, I suppose, more traditional Masterpiece toy, a G1 version. This is Wheeljack, who of course is standard Carbot height, so you can see there just how tall Tigertron is. And speaking of other masterpieces, I think it's just interesting to take a look at him versus a couple of otherworldly, let's say, Masterpiece designs. These are the last couple of official Masterpiece toys that I've reviewed on the channel, or a couple of them anyway. And here you've got MP-10 Movie Masterpiece Starscream and MP-49 Black Convoy. And I think what's great seeing these three toys lined up together is just how many bases the Masterpiece line is kind of covering right now, and how well they're doing at it, because you're seeing a range of different designs all brought to life in kind of stunning detail. You know, I'm still hopeful, and I know a lot of fans are, that we may see, you know, car robots or even the Unicron trilogy kind of recreated in this form at some point by TakaraTomy as well. But realistically, there is, you know, no doubt in my mind that this is a great time for collectors right now. I mean, just look at the range of different toys that we're getting purely from an official standpoint, let alone all of the unofficial stuff as well, you know? It's just incredible. And that's not even taking into account, you know, the Beast Wars homages that are coming out in the Kingdom line, you know, War for Cybertron. That's incredible as well. So I just think at the moment, what a great time to be a collector, really. I mean, case in point, look at how this lineup's going, eh? I mean, that is just incredible. Obviously, you've got a couple of stand-ins, you know, you've got that Rat Trap, Generations Rat Trap again, and the Rhinox, which is, you know, sadly far too small, but still, you know, as a stand-in, from a distance, it looks all right. But yeah, definitely, I definitely want to see a Masterpiece Rhinox, a proper one. And please, TakaraTomy, do us an air razor now, right? Like, that would just be brilliant. To see a Masterpiece air razor to go with Tigertron, I would love that. Absolutely love it. At the moment though, perhaps there's no better companion for him than Cheetor, of course. And I know we've already done a comparison of these two, but it's just worth seeing again as, you know, as I said about their beast forms, it really just, it's a great example of what TakaraTomy have achieved here, because they could have been so similar. You know, they could have just taken elements from Cheetor, upscaled it, like I think a lot of people kind of assumed that they had done or would do or whatever else. And, you know, they haven't. It's a completely new toy, designed from the ground up, completely new engineering involved, and it's just breathtaking. You know, yes, they have similarities in terms of their design, as they should from the cartoon, but they are so unique and yet work so well together. And I just think it's fabulous.
Be careful, big cat.
Always, little cat.
So what else is there to say on Tigertron? Well, in conclusion, I really like this toy. I gotta say, it's not perfect. There are a couple of quirks, as I've already mentioned, mainly related to the knees. That's, for me, the main offender on this toy. That's the kind of weakest bit of design. I'm almost half expecting to find out after this video that I've done something wrong with it. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think so from what I've kind of looked into or whatever else, just briefly, but, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if someone says, oh, actually, you know, you're supposed to click this in here or whatever else. And please do, if that's the case, because I've missed it, if that is the case. But I don't think so. It just seems to me to be a bit of weird design from TakaraTomy there. Otherwise, though, I really dig it. There's so much to like. The beast mode looks fabulous. Yes, the rear legs are a bit weird, but otherwise it's really cool. The transformation is not too bad, and some really clever bits, you know, like the hip skirt and how it comes together. And then the robot mode looks stupendous. There is a little bit of stability that could be better in the legs again, but overall, I really dig it. Some cool gimmicks too. So for me, you know what, definitely, it's a toot. So that's Masterpiece Tigertron. Now I'll put a link to TF Source's listing for this guy in the video description, and I'll be aiming to get the full photo review up on their blog soon. Otherwise, that's it from me, so enjoy the rest of your day. TTFN.